Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. I am one half of the Wired to Change coaching team. Trinity is on vacation. We sent her up north where she can redneck with her friends from Michigan. They took the Jeep up there. But we help small businesses get their business to the level they want it to be so they can enjoy the life of a small business owner. And we have two enjoyable small business owners. You might know them as the Office Nerds. We know them as Mark and Tiffani with an I, Roberts. Glad to have you two on the show. How are things?
Thanks for having us.
Things are going well.
Husband and wife couple working at home.
24/7.
Just bought a boat. So can you sail? Are you going to be the one? Are you allowed to sail it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can run the helm.
Okay.
We're still learning a lot about sailing, but yeah, we did make our quarters a little smaller to spend 24/7 together. So I love him.
How many will it sleep?
6.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay.
That's filling it, but yes.
And you've had no shortage of people inviting themselves.
We've had a few invites,
yeah.
yes. And it's going well.
Gee, the boat's just not ready yet, but we'll get back.
That's it, we're getting there. Well, we did it like a regular business owner. We had the opportunity to get a boat, so we did, and now we have to learn to sail. I hear people do it the opposite way very often, learn to sail before they get a boat, but those are just details. We'll work it through.
But that's the work-life balance everybody tries to reach.
Absolutely, and that's where we want to bring our clients. Because if you're not enjoying what you're doing,
Did you mess up already?
Probably.
Okay.
thank goodness for Drago.
Didn't take long,
you
did
can
it?
Fix it.
Yes, because if you're not enjoying what you're doing, the next question is why are you doing it? So we want to get you back to what, our tagline is we want to get you back to what you love. You started a company for some reason, for something that you love that you want to do. And you probably is not doing books unless you're a bookkeeper. So, that's where we come in, taking off your plate the things that you probably aren't good at, that you don't like to do, that's muddling up your work to get you back to what you want to do.
Branding is such a hard thing because we've seen companies just go wrong on that. They overthink it. They come up with one word with like 16 letters. It's Greek and it means 9 things, but nobody can remember that, let alone pronounce it. They can't remember it. The Office Nerds is perfect.
Let us do your nerdy work.
It is exactly what it says it is. And it's what most of us don't want to do because we're not good at it. And we don't do it right.
Business, that's not what you're good at. It's not what you want to do.
But you guys offer bookkeeping, QuickBooks, consulting, virtual assistant help, strategic partnership, kind of a nice arc to a business because some of your clients need different things, right?
Absolutely. We always try to right size what they need to what we can offer. And we understand that people are coming from that bootstrap and duct tape methodology very often. Yes, I would love to have clients that can just write a gigantic check. We were working with a food truck company, and I said, hey, I can have you set up next week. I can have the truck. I can have it set up. I can have your website. We can have it all. Just write me a check for $1 million. They said, excuse me, what did you say? I said, write me that, and we'll have everything done. Well, we can't do that. And that's exactly the point. We know that. So that's why we're asking, what is your budget? You're not trying to get the max out of you, but trying to understand what do you have and what can you work with, and we can work with that. Tiffany and I have both started several companies, and we've done it with no money. We've done it with different stages, and I've purchased a company before, so we understand the different aspects of it, and we're going to come at you where you are, not where we think you should be or where somebody thinks you should be.
Now, the company was birthed in 2010 by you. It was originally not the Office Nerds, but
Correct.
that's when it started. Why did it start then? Had you had enough of working for somebody
You did
else?
some homework. Actually, I was partners with another company. We did residential and commercial security systems, and I had some incidences. Primarily, my daughter, who was a freshman in high school, and she came in asking for some help with homework. And after the 3rd time that I put my finger up and said, 1 more minute, I'm almost done, because as I was cooking dinner and I was on the phone and I was on the computer, I put her off. And she said, you know what, I'll figure it out for myself. And I said, okay, it's time to take a step back and take a deep breath and reprioritize things, because you think you're going to get to this point in life where the kids get older and they're self-sufficient and they don't need you anymore. And the truth is the very opposite. They actually need you more than they did when they were 2 years old, and they were confined to the inside walls of your home, and they were safe. Now they're going out into the world. So after a lot of thought and prayer and discussion with family, I decided to sell my part of the company and do something else. Unfortunately, well, and that something else was worker bee for a little while and just kind of take a breath. It was also, like you said, 2010, so 2008 economic fallout. So as I started looking for a real job, a full-time job, nobody could afford me and my expertise and my experience and my knowledge. And I had somebody say, "Hey, I can use you, but this is what I need and this is what I can afford." And kind of a light bulb went off that said, how many other small business owners need the same thing, but they can't do it the way they've been doing it? And that's kind of how Triangle Management Solutions came along back in 2010.
To do bookkeeping and QuickBooks, there has to be, your brain has to work. You've got to be able to compartmentalize, connect dots quickly, and everything needs its place for the most part, right? Because it's not, it's kind of cut and dry. The number is the number, and it's got to come out to 1,000. It's got to come out to 1,000. So where did that come from you? Was that past family, or did you love math growing up?
Hated it. It was the worst thing in the world. I was definitely more artistic side of the brain, but somewhere along the way, the
practical took over.
The practical took over, and it tells a story. If you really look at it and you don't try to analyze it, it tells a story. And it tells the life of the business owner and the pitfalls and the rises and crescendos and the excitement and the knee-jerk reactions.
And the money they use to pay off something else that's not
use
part
to
of the
pay off
business,
something
but
else.
they have questions.
And unfortunately for some clients, the money that is disappearing. We have found that as well.
From them or employees.
Employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first ones we went in, and it's kind of funny the things that lead to it. The bottom line of the story is the one office manager this client had was augmenting her salary. Is a nice way to say it.
Doubled.
And because I knew the client so well, one of the things that jumped out to us that really led us down that road is gas was being purchased at a company where I knew he had a personal issue with this guy and would never buy gas at this gas station. And secondly, there was also a grocery store that I know he didn't personally go to. So I was like, why do I have expenditure over there? Are you giving somebody your corporate card? Because no, I'd never spend money on that guy. He still owes my family money from like 20 years ago.
Boston, life in Boston.
Yeah, do you know what Irish Alzheimer's is? You forget everything but a grudge. and this is basically was it. And, we couldn't figure it out. I mentioned to Tiffany as she's going through the books and, quickly went down that road. Let's find things that don't look right and really focused on it. And it quickly just turned out going, okay, someone's taking some money that they don't belong to.
So if you didn't know the guy, would you guys have found that?
Yeah.
We would have. That expedited it.
Okay.
Because we were looking at literally tiny little charges for gas.
Which is the smart way to do it.
Yes.
Instead of taking like $9,000 to buy something,
Yeah.
because that's going to be a quick
again,
red
while
flag.
there's no judgment, there's no judgment. There's still questions, and it's, hey, look, I see X amount. This kind of just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't play out right. So I need to ask you about it. And once you have that trust and that capacity to be able to openly talk to a client, and a client can be open with me. If you went to if you went gambling, the strip club, I don't care. It's your money at the end of the day. But we need to be able to have this open, honest conversation when there are questions that just say, something doesn't feel right, doesn't look right. Once we put all that together, that's where I get to hand it off to Mark, and they can look at how they want to grow, how they want to expand, what their exit strategy is. Are they going to buy and develop more, property, unit, to grow the business? Do they want to
We're
exit
lucky
the
that
business?
there's a great yin and yang between the two of us. I was a fund manager for the bank. I was also a banker, and I hate to say trained on how to steal, but they taught us the different fraud methods that were going on at the bank, and I found them fascinating. I always wanted to get into that side of it. Just the ways that you can manipulate the numbers and do things incorrectly. That was a lot of fun. So to your point, yes, we would have found it. It was just funny that it was expedited by saying, hey, there's a gas charge over here that I think is wrong. It's like, you're talking $20, $30. Why is this highlighting? Because it's jumping out going, there's something about that.
If a small business owner senses today that might be going on in their business, what's a couple of tips for them to start looking for?
It's funny. One of the rules with the banks, and this goes right to your point, is if you have 2 weeks vacation, you have to take it as 2 weeks. You can't take every Friday off for, 12 weeks or whatever that is. You can't take a week here and then a week there. Reason being, if you're consistently taking those small amounts like you're talking about, it takes 2 weeks for it to really pop up in the accounting. If you're doing the accounting like you're supposed to daily, weekly, and doing the reconciliation, it will show its ugly head.
And there's anomalies too that can stick out like a sore thumb. The one-offs can stick out just as much as the consistent. I go and get gas, and when I get gas, I do a $200 cash withdrawal. They can both stick out.
And the bottom line is, if you feel something's going on, 80-20 rule, you're going to be right.
Yeah.
80% of the
Yes,
time.
I've noticed that in my years. Yep.
People say, it's my intuition. It's like, no, your brain's working a lot harder than you really think it is. You're trying to filter out things. Yeah. And if you stop filtering, you'll be able to see it clearly. But the things you can do is you can just shake up the company, to shake up how your deposits are being done, shake up who's doing it. Things will all of a sudden pop right out. You can also bring in, some forensics accountants. You can bring in another bookkeeper to audit or look at things.
One of the biggest things that we recommend on the bookkeeping side of the company is that your office manager, your bookkeeper, and your CPA are 3 different people within 3 different companies.
Okay.
Because if your bookkeeper works for your CPA, guess who they're going to protect first? Mm-hmm. The CPA. The office manager and the bookkeeper are within the same company. Whatever variation you have, it's 3 different people with 3 different companies. So you have an office manager in-house, you have a bookkeeper, and then you have a CPA. So there is that final word. And the other thing, too, is a CPA is not going to dig deep like a bookkeeper is, and a bookkeeper is not going to, know the ins and outs like an office manager is. So my communication with an office manager is much different than a CPA to an office manager. And my communication with a CPA is much different than, those two would be.
Keeping people in the lanes is going to make much more efficiencies.
Yes.
It's going to create automatic double checks. I'm a huge proponent for having a bookkeeper and a CPA, not a CPA that does your books, for a couple different reasons. One, you're paying CPA rates.
Yeah.
God bless them. They deserve it. They do it. When I was a practicing attorney, my time was built out as an attorney because of what I knew, and they're in that same thing. But at the same point, they're also hampered by what they can do. When they sign anything as a CPA, they're signing their license. So we were making a couple of jokes about, okay, you've gone to the gambling, you've gone something, and you've put it as a business expense. CPA is not going to sign on that because that's their license. Bookkeeper shouldn't either because it's wrong, but it's kind of a bad analogy. But being able to have the bookkeeper talk to the CPA is going to create some other efficiencies. One, in the cost. 2, you now have an automatic double check. So if the bookkeeper does something wrong, the CPA can correct it because there's certain ways the CPA is going to want to have things done. So there's a little bit of a dance there.
I like your recommendation of changing things up. If you have somebody counting something, be it food, money, whatever it is, and they get in that pattern of, nobody over my shoulder, if you're doing that for 6 months and then all of a sudden he says, no, Mike's going to start counting now, And then all of a sudden these numbers are down here.
Well,
Well,
the other adage on the quality side is what you measure, you improve.
Yes.
So if you can build that into your process in that same way that you just described, I'm going to count do the boring, horrible, count the inventory, which it's got to be done. And if nobody's checking it, it's soft. If you know they're checking it, it's already going to be better, which means the check's going to be less,
Yeah, it doesn't
which
mean
means everything's going to flow.
doing something
No,
wrong
not
or
at all.
bad, but
No.
people get complacent,
Yeah.
comfortable, lazy. I mean, we all do. So that's why it's so good to know that somebody's going to check behind me and make sure that my work is good. So while
Which also validates your work.
this week
can
today,
have some pride in it.
this week today, I might be kind of lazy about it, but I know I need to review it by the end of the month because so-and-so is going to take a look at it.
In a previous life, I had a job that involved food and beverage, which was the first and only time I dealt in that world. And I don't understand why people want it. I know why restaurants open and close, and that life is just brutal. I learned.
So tip your servers.
Yeah, big time, yeah. So I learned a couple things. One is bartenders. We had a bartender that took us a while to figure out was helping his salary.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned there's a couple different ways. One is the way the straws are, because only they know what 9 straws this way and 1 across means.
Mm-hmm.
The dollar bills,
Mm-hmm.
head this way, head this way, head this way, head that way. Head this way, head, and just how they lay that so they know what they gave away. Bottle caps from beer, right? So they know what they gave away at the end of the night, and they're explaining it to me. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And they're like, oh, just stuff like that was
One of the things
unreal.
they taught us when I was a branch manager at the bank is if anyone had a scrap of paper next to their teller window, they were hugely suspect because it was exactly that. Because when you're dealing with cash, and it's kind of great that we're on cards now because it's kind of changed the game. But if you were putting $100 in as a cash deposit, and if I, as a teller, clip 10 of it, it's got to go in my drawer because I can't be seen putting it in my pocket. And what you're going to do is count that I only gave Mike $90 to his account, and it'll get audited later and taken out of the account. But I've got to get that 10 out of my drawer. So I'll mark on the sheet of paper that there's a 10 for me at the end of the day, so that my draw balances. So that's the same analogy as your straws and doing
I didn't even
things.
think of that. That's awful.
Well, and
it is.
That's impressive because there are cameras everywhere around the tellers.
Yes.
At what point in time from the drawer to the safe do they pull that? Because it's got to be smooth.
The big trick is you throw it away.
One more time.
Throw the money away. Throw it in the trash. When you're throwing other stuff, you throw the money in the trash. You draw balances. You go and you put it away. And then, you got some other scrap, you throw it in there and you take the money out.
Okay, we're not here to tell people how to do things.
We'll be doing our version of Ocean's
We're
11's
telling-
later.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, such a good movie. No, we're telling them what to look for is the way I look at it. You had mentioned earlier along those lines is the efficiencies of people in their roles. Where's the biggest time waster? If it's a business, maybe 2 or 3 people. What are the biggest time wasters we have?
Not having dedication to your job. In fact, I was just having this discussion with someone that helps companies position themselves to sell or transition. And what I see very, very often is the owner is like the kid putting his finger in the dike. He's touching every process at some point to make it run smooth, which is great. Now it runs smooth. But if you take the owner out, every process fails at some point because he's the one that was fixing things. This is the biggest danger. So if, God forbid, the owner hits megabucks, we don't even have to have him do something horrible like hit by a car, but we take him out of the picture for a little bit. Every process fails, and then you see the owner coming back on, nothing runs without me. That's right, because you're screwing up every process. You're touching it, and nobody else knows you're touching it that they can back up for you.
Trinity tells the story when we work with clients. If you can't go on vacation and your business continue to run, you have a job. Mm-hmm. But if it can run without you, then you have a business. It's like,
That's exactly it.
yeah.
So getting that out of the way is the first thing. And getting people to understand the whole process. You need to know the process. For me, I need to know the whole thing because I will get that mental block. I need to know how step 1 goes to 2 to 3. And that's another big failing of the smaller companies. They don't know the flow. They just know they do this piece for some reason, and then they hand it off to Mike, who's going to do something, and he's going to give it to Tiffani. I actually, when I worked at the bank, we had a process like that I took a sheet of information, basically transposed the whole thing, gave it to you, and your primary job was to transpose it, add it back up, and then give it to Tiffani, who had to transpose it back to the first way. None of us cared which way this information was ordered, but we were each told that we had to do that for something that has now become obsolete. Once I found the process, and I said, hey, can we convert this, and do you need to do it? We basically took the second person out. It was like, we're just going to add it up. Well, the first person can do that and do the verification and give it directly to Tiffani and cut it off. So knowing the process is, the next big thing that really, really fails.
Tiffani, when you're working with, and I so want to call you Trinity, so if I do, forgive me. You just
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, really, it's just a first. So she's there. Her first name begins with T. Why not say Trinity?
Well, I got a work wife. He's got a work wife.
I do. Only Trinity's real husband got a Jeep. I didn't get a Jeep, so I'm the When we're tracking our numbers, we don't want to do it soup to nuts. We just have to get it in an order or readable or legible. What are a couple things? What are the worst things we do with tracking daily or weekly or monthly?
Making false entries.
For example?
Trying to match your QuickBooks to your bank account.
Okay, I understand that.
So the bank says I have $1,000. My QuickBooks says I have $500. So let me do a $500 entry so they match. Understanding the purpose of reconciliation and how that really works. And taking that from the little paper book register that was in our checkbooks to a software version seems to be so complicated to most business owners. Anytime I start working with a client, I start with what is their end goal? Like, what do they want? What do they want to achieve? If they don't ever want to see it, they don't want to know about it, they just want a report when they ask for a report, and that's it. Or if they wanted to have a certain level of understanding of the process, the software, how can I go in, that kind of thing. And I love educating the client and literally teaching them the software, working myself out of a client, so to speak. And I've worked myself out of several clients that I see less and less because I've taught them enough that based on the size of their business and what they're doing, that's all they need me for now, which is
And
great.
sometimes we want that, right?
And I love it.
One of the problems we see is people do the books like they wash the floor, to get it done, to go to the next thing. What happens when you do it that way is the books that in your mind are done. I've put numbers in and it looks somewhat right, and you walk away. Like Tiffani talks about it being the story. It's the best tool you have to really know where your business is, to know where you're spending your money, your time, and what's productive, not what you think is productive. You wouldn't believe how many times that's wrong. And Key Concepts, which is the coaching side of it, really was built into the Office Nerds name, because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. We've all used that, and that's true. If you don't know where things are, there's not that much value for me to come in and fix things. Because if you're losing money and I fix things to be more efficient, I've made it more efficient for you to lose more money. We had one client that we almost took in a different side of the business that was selling $3 million worth of product to a wholesaler. And when we heard that, my partner at the time says, let's sign them up. We can do something with that. Well, I wanted to dig a little deeper. I said, well, how much are you making? Oh, that's the interesting thing. Well, I leaned forward in the chair. Why is that interesting? It really shouldn't. It should just be a number. Well, we're losing money. How much are you losing? We're losing $20,000 because we didn't understand how, discounts and basis points and all that worked. I said, well, okay, I can make you $26,000 before we leave this meeting. They're like, oh, great. How? I said, stop selling. You're selling below cost. Stop it. Yeah, but we're selling $3 million.
And that's what they brag to their buddies about.
Yes, there's a problem with a sales-driven organ. I love my sales guys. You need sales. But But you can't let that be the end all be all. And that's what it was. But we're selling $3 million. I can't stop doing that.
In a previous life, this is back in Florida, right the year that the economy took a dump. I was a business broker. And I just chuckled at the number of times people would say, because I'd get to the point like, okay, well, let's take a look at the books and so we can set a price for your business. Which set do you want? No. You can either screw the government or you can resell your business. You can't do both. But I love stuff like that. We're like, no, that's not quite how that works. And then they say, well, I'm doing $1 million in revenue. And then they want to price the business off that. And no, your net's 80. Like, would you buy this business off $1 million if I was selling you that? No. I'm like, exactly.
Another thing they don't understand is intermingling their money. That's probably one of the biggest things for a small business owner is intermingling their money and not having a separate business account versus your personal account.
Let's throw out one of your nuggets.
To them, it's,
Put on my old law hat. When you mesh your money, intermingle it, put it together, personal out of business, vice versa, that protection that you think you have from having an LLC or a subchapter S or any type of organization is gone. It is thrown out the window. It is worthless. The legal theory on that is piercing the corporate veil. And basically what it means is, God forbid you got in trouble and you had one of us, pencil neck attorneys coming in going, okay, let me find out. We want to wreck that bubble, that protection of the corporation to get to your personal assets, because that's usually where your assets are. And if you've mixed your money in however way we've done it, the argument is going to be, well, you've used this like your personal account, therefore it's not a business, therefore you just basically hired yourself, and therefore everything you own in whatever name is now available for me to sue and take. So that's why that is just so important. We try to beat it in and scare our clients, because you've gone through all this expense and time. You say educated. By my Boston comes out. There's a soft side and
depends on how much they want to fight you on it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, at the end of the day, it's your decision to do whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah. As long as you know you don't have protection if the thing hits the fan, because you've mixed this. And the other thing is, you're never going to get a letter from the government going, we saw that you mixed something, so therefore you don't have, any protection. It's only when a problem arises. So, a lot of the things that businesses are doing wrong is only when things become important, when it hits the fan, you're going, I need, like people with 2 books that needed this COVID money, couldn't get any because they're trying to tell the government for the last 15 years, I've been losing money. Well, if you're losing money, close the shop. You shouldn't be there.
Kind of like these Major League Baseball owners, but I digress. So can I assume that when you went to look for a name of a company, change it, that Pencil Next was already taken?
Pencil Next was taken.
Oh, yeah, I hate that. So now you're the office terms. Brag on one of your clients, no names, but what do they do well that makes your job easier and their business better?
Let us do everything.
What do they do better that makes our... Say that.
What do they do correctly when they hand you the information? It's like, you know what? This is the way it's supposed to be done.
You know what? I do have a client. She's out of Chapel Hill, and when she got to the point that she was ready to stop doing pencil and paper, so to speak, she did her homework. She did her research. Fortunately, we were recommended by another client, and we started from day one. We started, even though her business is 5-6 years old, we started her books from day one, and typically most of our clients, we do about 1.5 years worth of work.
Reconciliation.
Cleanup, work, updates.
So for those clients that want to fix their books before they give them, like cleaning, before the cleaning lady comes, stop that. We just let us get in.
Yeah. And a lot of them, too, haven't had their taxes done. So, for example, it's 2020. Every client we brought on this year, I started from January 2018. I did 18, 19, and 20. Or at least July of 18. But no, so that's what she did. She said, okay, I'm ready for this next step in my business. This is my growth point. She did her homework, her research, and fortunately for us, ended up selecting us to be her bookkeeper. And again, what's your end goal? What do you want? And she wants to be able to understand it. And so, yeah, we set out a plan. We did a 3 and a 6 month plan. We did a right now, here's what we're going to do. Here's what you can expect in a month, and here's what you can expect in 3 months, and based on what you want to reach those goals. And we have worked that way, and it's been beautiful because it's been so much less work, and it has cost her so much less money.
My guess is a lot of business owners don't factor that in.
They don't factor that in. They pay so much more than they need to pay to fix things.
And the real business plan or progression that we look at is Tiffani really does all the QuickBooks and the bookkeeping, and it's the education and the training. However much you want to know about the books and the numbers. And the great thing when we take over the books is when we give them back numbers, they do what they've always supposed to do. They put that analytical hat and they look at them going, I couldn't have spent that much on this. Well, yeah, yes, you did. You know, now they're analyzing it. That's where my analogy before. They just did it to get it done. And once it was done, they didn't look at it. So we want to take it and make it a tool. And once it's a tool, then some of the background that I have and that Tiffani has can really come and start showing some true value. I was involved with the strategic sourcing at State Street Bank when we redid every contract that the company had to save like $1 billion or something crazy. Going in, and we'll do this for small companies. We'll take a look. If you have spending a lot on insurance, let's reprice it. Scott Rudder will get involved. We have an awful lot of go-to folks going, hey, price this out, see if we can save it. The payroll, I love repricing payroll. Going, okay, let's see if you've not using half the services you have, and go right down the line. Half of what we can do is just cost savings. Cost savings is better than revenue because you've already made the revenue. Now, if I can stop what you're spending, you've made more money.
It's kind of like looking at your phone bill and realizing, oh, we don't have 6 phones anymore.
Yeah, exactly what it is. We're like an umbrella policy. Yeah. That's really what we are. Between Mark's educational background as a lawyer and his finance background, both educationally and his work experience, and just my years of experience of being that office manager, the Robin, so to speak, of Batman, that support system. Because I don't like the limelight. I don't like being out front. I am not the picture of the company by any means. So we feed off of each other's strengths and our weaknesses. There's no judgment when I don't know something, or I'm like, I'm thinking about this way, but what do you think about that way? And vice versa. I mean, he has a wall of plaques and diplomas and education and background, but he has no problem asking me a question based on my strengths, my experiences. And what we try to do is just offer as much of that wealth of knowledge, both as business owners, educationally, experience, to the new business owner. And not because we woke up one morning and said, hey, let's learn how to do this. Instead, what we did was, hey, we've learned how to do all these things. How can we share that knowledge? And that is our passion, is how to share that knowledge to the next new business owner.
We love coaching people that want to be coached because you can see they want to learn.
Yeah.
And they're so receptive to new ways, cost cutting, new systems. It's wonderful.
So many things out there that. And again, a lot of businesses have just happened. They weren't planned, despite having a business plan or having no business plan. Life takes you in different turns. So we don't ask, why are you doing it this way? I will ask, how is it benefiting you? How does it get to the next step? Because when you ask why, it's like, well, I had one guy and we needed 5, so this was the best way I could get it. I understand that. We've been there. I've done that. I know. But it's now let's take a look at it and see how it fits with you now, and can we make it better? Sometimes just that new set of eyes is fantastic. And like I said, the tips and tricks that we've had that we've helped companies on, that always comes back out.
And I would say more than not, more small business owners than not know their craft, but don't really know a business structure and how to run that.
Yep.
I
And
went
we totally give away more than we should. We criticize each other. That's probably the biggest criticism of each other is, well,
No.
She needs to price me and I need to price her.
Everything they need to know. Are they going to be a client now?
Put it out there. Well, and I'm with you on that. And Trinity and I have this conversation a lot too. And just put it out there because they're going to be fired up for a month on doing it. And then September's like, oh crap! I don't want. Oh, another month I got to do all this. Here, Tiffany, take this back.
Here's the thing: everything that we can tell you is like telling you how to diet.
Yes.
Telling you is easy. The process is simple. Doing it is hard, and that's where the discipline and really takes hold. And that's why the real value is getting it off your plate. I used to teach a class up in Mass on how to start a business. And I remember one of the classes I started, I said, who wants $10? I was just trying to get everybody's attention. And then I saw 5 people raise their hand. I'm like, I don't even have $50 on me. Okay, well, how do I turn this? And then you see the other people in the class going, what did he say? Could you say that again? Okay, who wants $10? Then you pick someone. You say, okay, Mike, here's $10, but I want an hour of your time. They would almost always push that $10 back on, I'm worth more than $10. I said, great. 1, I get my $10 back. 2, what are you doing in your business that you could have somebody do for $10? Are you washing the floor? Yes. Are you answering the phone? Yes. Are you doing the books? Yes. I can go right down the list. We can get that off your plate. And where is your true value? Your value is in doing whatever your business is. So the more you do this, the less you're doing of that value add. So let's get rid of it. One of a couple different ways. Hire somebody, give it to someone like us, automate it, which is a big thing, or so forth.
If you need help, folks, I'm telling you, for the last 35 minutes, they've shown you what they can help you do. And again, it's the back of house stuff that kills people. And the selling is easier. The knowing the business is the easiest part of it, but the back house stuff. So if you hate bookkeeping, if you hate QuickBooks, if you don't even know QuickBooks, I don't even know how to log in. You guys go to theofficenerds.com. TheOfficeNerds, plural.com, which is a great name for a company. When I met you, I think probably going on 2 years now.
Is it really?
And heard the name, I'm like, damn it. God, that's such a good name. So
Nobody remembers anything, but they do remember Irwin.
that's the whole point.
They love Irwin.
That's the whole point. So well done on that. So anyways, best of luck through, I think we're halfway through COVID, or we're closer to the end than the beginning.
Yeah.
We're
Who
almost
knows?
halfway
But
through the year.
yeah, but appreciate having you two on.
Thank
I
you.
know your
Thanks for
clients are in
having
good
us.
hands, and you guys are always open for a question or two.
Absolutely.
If we've learned anything, we learned Mark gives his time away all the time, but you should do that.
We
So
even
I
answer the
applaud you for
phone
that.
on the
Yeah.
boat
Yep. There you go. So,
up till 5 o'clock on Friday.
Anyway.
You can actually book a call right through the website.
there you go. Anyways, thanks for coming out today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll talk to everybody next time on our Wired to Change podcast.